Good morning. It's Monday the 17th of March 2025 and I'm back beside the River Severn yet again. Well, if you watched my films from last year, i.e. 2024, you'll know that I visited many places where I spent the earliest years of my life. So for example, I went to the city of Gloucester last year, which is where I was born. I also visited a village called Alvington, which was my first home. And I visited Chepstow, which is where I spent most of my childhood. However, when I was about 14 or 15, I can't remember if I'd reached my 15th birthday by that time, in 1981, things were about to change again. So we left Chepstow in 81 and we travelled across the Severn here, this side of the River Severn, to where I am now, and we made a new home here. This is Portishead. Just a stone's throw from the seafront there, I'm stood here beside the lake grounds. A very pleasant part of Portishead. Yep. When I was living here, I can remember spending a lot of my time during the school summer holidays here. Really pleasant place indeed. Now this is the old outdoor swimming pool. Still seems to be open now. I remember coming here when I lived in Portishead. I think I only used it the once. It was a heated swimming pool at the time, but God, it was cold. Absolutely freezing. So I think after that experience, I decided never to use it again. A bit too cold for me. Okay, I'm just going to head up here a minute. This is Battery Point. Wonderful. Yeah. So, I'm just going to walk down here. I can't walk all the way, but I'll get as close as I can. Well, I can't get any closer than this, so I'll just walk back up there again, and there's some information about Battery Point. Well, there's a lot of information on this board again, so I'll just read out the first part of it. Battery Point has a long history of being an important area for Portishead and the coastline towards the River Avon and Bristol, as both a lookout and an area of defence during times of unrest. The panoramic, wide-ranging views across the mouth of the estuary make it an ideal vantage point. There are remains of an Iron Age hill fort in nearby Eastwood. The Romans would certainly have had a guard station at this strategic point. One of the earliest known notable recordings of the site was in 1497, when John Cabot sailed past from Bristol to discover the New World. I headed east from Battery Point to walk through Eastwood, soon merging onto a lane. We've been living in Chepstow for about 12 years, I think. So by that time, my mum was working for this company that was about to move premises. So they asked her if she would move with a job because they valued her very much, which was nice. So Mum thought about it for a while. She wasn't sure, but I don't think she wanted to spend the rest of her life in Chepstow. So she agreed to move with the job and they moved here to Portishead. And also, Portishead was quite close to Bristol, and I think Mum always liked Bristol, and she felt that she wanted to be close to the big city. And certainly looking at my point of view, she thought that once I left school, it would be easier for me to get a job. So anyway, we moved here to Portishead in 1981, so it was a huge change of lifestyle at the time. Ah, the Royal Inn. I think I came here just the once when I lived in Portishead. Yeah. Of course, when I was living in Portishead, so I can't remember if I was 14 or 15, but we were here for 3 years. So I spent the last few years of my childhood here, as well as the first few months of my adulthood. So I started going to pubs when I was living in Portishead, started drinking beer. Although I wasn't really drinking beer in those days. I remember starting off on cider. God, that was fatal. I remember getting really drunk one night on cider, and I was ill. I was 16, first time of getting heavily drunk. You live by experiences, as they say. Passing the lifeboat station, I came to Portishead Pier, which once welcomed passengers on steamers on trips along the Bristol Channel. From here, I walked into Portishead Marina. Portishead Marina looks absolutely fantastic. Just amazing. I don't recognise it because it's just totally transformed since I lived here. This used to be an old disused dock and there was an old power station here as well with 4 big chimneys. And I can remember from my house in Portishead, which was on the hill up there, I had views of when the chimneys were being destroyed. It was fantastic. I've still got photos of some of them actually. Okay, well I'm going to get on and walk into the town centre now then. So here I am on Portishead High Street. Wow. Brings back lots of memories. Okay, well I'm just making my way down to the other end of the high street now. Here's the Poacher Pub. This always used to be a nice pub when I lived in Portishead. Nice to see that it's still here. One of the first pubs I would have come into when I first started drinking alcohol. Turning off right along Church Road North, I followed it to St Peter's Church. Let's go and have a look at the church then. The question is, will I be able to get inside? Well, the church is open, but there appears to be a funeral service going on, so I won't disturb them. I'll just move on and let them have their service in peace. Okay, onward then. I'm on St Peter's Road now then. I'm just going to head along here for a bit. I'm heading towards my old comprehensive school, although we won't be seeing my school today. Okay, I'm emerging onto another road now. Now this lane I do remember, because this was part of my route from home to school. So my school, Gordano School, is just down there. I'm going up this way. I'm going to follow a bit of the old route I used to take when I used to travel to and from school. At a T-junction, I turned right to walk up St Mary's Road. St Mary's Road then. Yes, I remember this very well. So this was definitely the route we used to take to and from school. So we being a friend of mine called Mike, he was my best mate at the time. He lived quite close to my house in Portishead, so we used to travel to and from school together. We sometimes walked. Most of the time we actually used to ride our bikes. We used to cycle to and from school. So yeah, in the mornings it was great fun speeding down this hill. Yeah, great fun. So now that I'm at the top of St Mary's Road, I'm here. I meet the top of Newlands. I think that's Newlands Hill. Is it Newlands Hill? But we used to call that Blind Lane, I think. Sure, it was called Blind Lane. It looks like it's closed to motor vehicles now. I do remember you used to be able to take your car up here, but it was a very narrow road. But yeah, Blind Lane. Okay, so I'm off up this way now, and very soon we'll come to somewhere that is hopefully quite interesting. So this is the triangle. Yeah. So I'm very close to where we live now. Yeah. It's funny because even though we were only in Portishead for the 3 years, I've still got a lot of memories here. Because I was at that age, I suppose, where I spent the last year and a bit at school here. So I made as many school friends here as I did in Chepstow, even though I was living here for a lot shorter time. But yeah, it was just that impressionable age, as I say, where I finished my school years and started my adulthood and started drinking here. So, yep. So over there, there's a nail shop there now. Where the nail shop is now, that used to be an off licence. I used to walk up there every night and buy a bottle of Coke from me and Mum. And here are the rank of shops that I remember too. Yeah. Fish and chip shop still there. That used to be a fish and chip shop when I lived here. And I remember when I first moved to Portishead and used that chip shop, I first learned about Clark's pies. Now Clark's pies, they were very much a local thing, but they were a certain type of meat pie with a very sort of like tough pastry, but they were really nice. I wonder if they still do Clark's pies. Okay. And down here, yeah, there's a co-op there. I'm not sure if that used to be a co-op when I lived in Portishead. Yeah, that used to be a paper shop there. That's closed now, or Italiana pizza place. Yeah. Okay, on we go then. Wow, that's a Tesco Express now. When we lived in Portishead, it was the Royal Oak pub. Wow. Another pub gone. Oh well, remember it very well. And Royal Oak was literally just up the road from where we lived. And I'm just about to walk down where we live now. So I'm on West Hill now then. And West Hill was where Mum and I lived when we lived in Portishead. So yeah, it just seems a lifetime ago now. Well, it was 41 years since we left here. But yeah, we lived here for 3 years, but at the time it seemed a very long time. But looking back, it seems ages ago. It was ages ago. But here, we had some lovely views over the Severn Estuary. I remember being able to look out of my bedroom window and see the River Severn. And I used to play my electronic organ because that was when I was learning to play the organ properly when I lived here. So I used to sit and play the electronic organ and look out over the views of the Severn Estuary. It was fantastic. And of course today is the first time that I'm using my new DJI Osmo Pocket 3 camera. Wonderful. I did give it a bit of a trial run before now, but this is really the first proper day that I'm using this camera, so I'm still getting to know it. There are things I've pressed which I shouldn't have pressed, and I've had to try and get back to where I was before, so that's part of the learning process, I suppose, isn't it? But the fact that I'm now holding this camera in my right hand, and it's very light, compared to when I used my old Sony camcorders, which were heavier, and with the tripod too, I mean, this really is just a no-brainer, so this is certainly the way forward, I think. But yeah, I've still got a lot more learning to do with my new camera, but it's going to be an exciting adventure on the way, I think. Dropping down a series of steps between houses, I crossed over Nor Road, taking another path towards the coast. Of course, when I lived in Portishead, to say, I finished school in 1982, so I was 16 then, and then later that year I started my first job, and that was actually in Bristol, so I had to commute into Bristol by bus, although I think I used to get a lift with somebody for a while, but most of the time I used to travel to and from Bristol by bus. It wasn't far away, but yeah, it was a real change of lifestyle, leaving school and then starting my first job. But yeah, I can understand why a lot of people who work in Bristol would want to come and live in Portishead, because it's a great place to live and commute from. So I'm walking on the coast path now, and this was a walk I did regularly when I lived in Portishead. This was the coast path that ran between Portishead and Clevedon. So yeah, I did it quite a few times. So say, when I lived in Portishead, I think I did more cycling than walking. And of course, I also still used to travel on the bus to Chepstow to see Granny, and then do walks back over in the Wye and Forest of Dean. But certainly, walks around here, this was definitely the walk I mainly did, and it was a lovely walk. I'm only doing a little bit of the coast path today, but hopefully tomorrow and the day after, I might try and do a bit more of the coast path between here and Clevedon. District of Woodspring. Cool, that's an old sign. Woodspring District Council hasn't existed for years. It's North Somerset now. But of course, when I lived here in Portishead, it was Woodspring. So, earlier I talked about when I first started working when I lived here, but afterwards, later on, when I was 17, at the start of 1984, I started working for Avon County Council. So Avon was the council that sort of covered all of what was Woodspring, as well as what was North Avon, Kingswood, and there was Bristol. So I worked for Avon for 12 years, and that was from 1984 to 1996. And in that year, it was abolished. So 1996, Avon was abolished, and all the district councils became the main council. So it was just a one-tier council here. So, for example, the district of Woodspring became North Somerset. And after Avon was abolished, I actually worked, that's a bit low. After Avon was abolished, I worked for the new North Somerset Council. I think I worked there for about 3 or 4 years. Okay, so I'm now walking onto Sugarloaf Beach. Lovely. You can't really walk out far because it's all mud flats, but it's nice and rocky as well, so that's nice. Absolutely wonderful. Lots of memories of walking on the beach here. Okay, I'll just walk along the pebbles for a bit, see how far I can get. I'm almost back at the lake grounds now where I started my walk today. But yeah, hopefully over the next few days I'll do a bit more of the coast path between here and Clevedon, because it really was a lovely route, I remember. I'm staying in North Somerset for a week. I'm staying with Mum. That's part of the reason why I've come down to this area again this year, because, well, I'm conscious of the fact that I live a long way from Mum, well, it's less than 200 miles, but you know, I don't come and see Mum as often as I'd like. So this year I am planning to sort of come and see her more often, and I can go off for the day here and there and do walks like I'm doing today. So it's been great. I'd also like to give a shout out to two old friends of mine, Teresa and Liz. Now they, like Mike, were some of my best friends when I lived in Portishead. Two dear ladies. I still have some contact with them nowadays. They're both married now, so that's lovely. Yeah, Teresa and Liz and Mike, they were all my best friends. I had a lot of friends in Portishead, to be fair, but there's just too many to name, really. But they're the three that I spent the most time with, really. Okay, I'm getting back towards the lake grounds now then. How lovely to end today here by the lake grounds. Absolutely wonderful. As I said earlier, I spent a lot of my summer holidays when I lived here down in the lake grounds because it was lovely, and of course it always got very busy during the summer. I expect it still does. But yeah, I mean, even today, I mean, we're in the middle of March now. It's a weekday, so we're out of season, but there's still a lot of people around. It's obviously very popular around here still, which is nice to see. It's nice to see that these places still get visited. Okay, well that's the end of my walk now, and I'm just going to walk over to my car, which is just on Esplanade Road there, and then I'll make my way to Mum's.